What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. So today we're going to continue our popular best dumbbell exercise series, this time for your abs. That's right, your abs. Because you actually can use dumbbells to train your abs. As a matter of fact, you should be using dumbbells to train your abs if you want the best looking abs. Because just like any other muscle in your body, this particular muscle group will respond to overload. And we can do it with a dumbbell. Now, are there other ways to overload your abdominal muscles? Of course there are. You can use a med ball like I've done here on Instagram. If you haven't already followed us, guys, you're going to want to make sure you do at ATHLEAN-X, which requires that you be quick, explosive, and powerful. But it's not going to appear in this video because we're limiting ourselves to dumbbells. Another alternative here that I also showcased on Instagram was this plate drag done out of a plank position. It's definitely something you can use to create a strength overload. But as I said, we've limited the exercise selections to dumbbells, and we're not sacrificing in doing so. I am going to pick the best exercise for each of the following categories. The best strength exercise, the best for power, for hypertrophy, the best total body ab exercise with the dumbbell, it actually exists, something for more of a corrective use, metabolic exercise, and then one that doesn't really fit any of the categories here but is no less important, and that is our best miscellaneous exercise. The fact is, guys, as we always have done here, we're going to put the science behind the strength, why we select what we select. With that being said, let's kick this list off right with our best exercise for strength. All right, so when we talk about ab strength here, there's something we probably have all experienced firsthand, and that is whenever we move our legs towards our head versus our head towards our legs, it's a hell of a lot harder. And the reason for that is because we're not as strong as we think we are. The weight of our legs alone is oftentimes enough to overload those movements to make them a challenge. However, it doesn't mean that you're trying to shy away from adding external load if possible. Matter of fact, you can do this with a couple different exercise selections. I do think there's a difference between the strength we have in our abs when we move from the top down for the very reasons I just explained. So I would separate this selection into two choices. The first one would be when we come from the top down, this exercise here, the Otis up, where you simply have one dumbbell in your hand and the only challenge is to get to a tall sitting position here and then lower yourself back down slowly, eccentrically under control of the abs. Then we swap hands and we come back again. You can see that the legs are not participating here. They're spread out, they're not pushing down to the floor, the feet aren't flat. I'm getting no extra contribution, I'm making my abs do all of the work. Now if we wanted to overload the bottom up movement, a lot of us might run over to this exercise here, the hanging leg raise, and throw a dumbbell between our feet. But if you're doing this right here, then you're really not strengthening your abdominal muscles. Instead, you're strengthening your hip flexors, which is going to cause a problem down the road, particularly maybe in the form of some low back pain. Because you're just lifting at the hips as opposed to doing this, and that is actually trunk curling, curling from the pelvis, causing flexion of the spine with the strength of the abdominals. But I wouldn't even suggest this be the exercise of choice. Instead, I would do this here. And this is a dragon thrust. And what we do is we set ourselves up with the dumbbell between our feet, anchor ourselves to something sturdy behind us, and then you simply just try to lift the pelvis up. All of that action of getting the pelvis lifted into the air is going to be the tremendous responsibility of the lower abs. And then when you extend your legs out, you're making the moment arm longer, making it more of a challenge for the abs, but you get that relief of being able to bring it back temporarily. Some will find that they'll be able to actually do some repetitions here and create some additional overload that they might not have been able to do here either correctly or even at all on the hanging leg raise. So when it comes to power now, we have to introduce something else, not just the ability to move some weight or to have some external force that we can overcome, but can we actually overcome it quickly? Can we do it in an explosive manner? That is where power is. And we can do this here with this dumbbell twisting toe tap. So I almost preset the abs. I preload them because of the rotation stretch I get by dropping the dumbbell down to the side. And then I come up and I lift by moving both the top and the bottom together to meet in the middle. And then I reload on the opposite side. Again, I'm getting the stretch reflex from both sides here. And I come back up, touch the toe on the other side, and repeat. Again, there's coordination and synchronization between the lower and the top half. And more importantly, there's the overcoming of an external load with speed. This is where power is at, and I invite you guys to try this exercise. You're going to love it. So when it comes to hypertrophy, that's actually something you should not avoid when it comes to the abdominal muscles. A lot of us think, I don't want to get big abs because they're going to become bloated looking. That's not actually true at all. Remember, if we're lean enough, the development of the abs, the hypertrophy of the abdominal muscles is going to create abs that pop, abs that are more visible. And my favorite way to do that here is with the weighted levitation crunch. Now, this is a slow movement. This is one where we're not moving very much at all, but it has the incredible benefit of an overloaded eccentric. And we do that because we introduced this physio ball. And when we lay on the physio ball, you can see that when I lay back over it, I'm getting a stretch on the abs. I'm getting an exaggerated stretch on the abs that I then have to come out of. That elongation, that eccentric contraction of the abs is something we don't often get, especially when you think about the fact that most of our ab exercises are done flat on the floor and we can't go past the neutral position. On the ball we can. When we come out of this, every single contraction should be purposeful. You should think about trying to contract each row of the abs, the top, the middle, the bottom, each row one at a time to really get an intense contraction. Both of those elements are something that were really helpful when it comes to building muscle. We know that an intentional contraction and the introduction of eccentric overload are both elements that are going to help us to do exactly that, to grow your abs, to ultimately make them look better. So when we're attempting to create a metabolic overload with an exercise, we generally pick an exercise that allows for a full range of motion and lots of contractions. And as that burn accumulates, we realize that it's coming from an accumulation of metabolites, hydrogen ions, lactic acid, things that actually start to accumulate within the muscle that make us want to cry and stop, and the goal being continue. Don't cry, don't stop, keep pushing, and that's where the gains are best had. Well, we can do that here with abs, but I suggest something slightly different. Instead of trying to get a bunch of repetitions of flexing and extending, why don't we spend a little bit more time stabilizing the spine, but still creating a challenge that we're going to want to resist that burn on. And we can best do it here with one of two options. Number one, this exercise here called rock the boat. This is actually an isometric challenge for the abs that is preventing movement, rotation, and actually extension through this one stable position where I try to challenge myself left and right. Now, the goal again is not stopping when it just starts to burn, but continuing as long as I can, preventing the breakdown of this stable position at any point during the exercise. And if you don't feel like doing this, you can try this instead. This is a hollow rock done with a dumbbell. And the idea being here, once again, is you lock yourself into the position and you're using the overload of the dumbbell to challenge this position even further. Look, people do this exercise without a dumbbell at all. It's still challenging. The idea being you're going to reach that metabolic overload a bit faster because the demands on the muscle are greater. The goal here is just to get in this position, stay stable, and rock, and keep going and resist that burn, rep after rep after rep, never compromising the stability of your core in the process. Guys, both of these options are good ones. Whichever one you pick, I promise you you're going to get good results from it. All right, so moving on now, we have our total body exercise. And who would have thought there's a great dumbbell exercise that's going to hit your abs, but everything else in the process? Well, there is, and it's this exercise right here. It's the dumbbell overhead walk. Now look, anytime we elongate our body, we're creating an instability of our entire body. Right? If I wanted you to become as stable as possible, you might even do this and really crunch down and stay tight. But as soon as I make you as long as I can, I've introduced a destabilization. Well, guess what the abs do really, really well? They create stability. So if we do this exercise like this, we're going to have stability created instantly to be able to allow us to walk steadily, to allow us to keep those arms up as tall as possible overhead, and to create the ability to not have a leaning left and right or twisting or falling forward or backwards. All of this is a responsibility of the abdominal muscles, and we're going to challenge them really, really well with this one simple exercise. Simply walk around the gym, your house, whatever available space you have, with a pair of dumbbells up overhead, with a combined weight that's about a quarter of your body weight, and just keep walking. Stay tall, stay focused, and try this exercise. I promise you, it'll do good things for you. So when it comes to the corrective exercise selection here, you probably figured he's got to go for the back. And you're right, I am, but I'm not going to go at it in the way that you think. We do a lot of lumbar strengthening in our ATHLEAN-X programs and here on this channel, but what we don't do that much of is actually stretching the muscles of the low back that do tend to get tight a lot of times as compensation for other areas that aren't working right. So this exercise here is great for that, and this is the dumbbell ab roll-up. The purpose here of the dumbbell is to create a couple things. Number one, it actually assists us in getting to the top. It assists us in getting a stretch on the hamstrings and on that low back in this forward position. As we go back down, it actually becomes an eccentric challenge for us as we try to paint one segment at a time back down to the floor. It creates control at every segment, demanding that we have the ability to lay down one vertebrae at a time, which is something that doesn't often happen. You'll see people clunk down to the floor because they overexert their abs at some position on the way back. They just don't have the strength there. So now you can see I'll drop the dumbbell here at the end and just do a couple to really rep out and really explore that flexibility that I've just gained from this one simple exercise. And now finally we have that miscellaneous category where I get to hit sort of the other muscles that don't get the love that these specific ab exercises are giving us. And this exercise is one of my all-time favorites. It is the weighted gymnast ab tuck. I've covered this exercise many times on the channel because of how good it is, but it's got so many factors that make it good. It's got not only this bottom up tuck, this posterior tilt of the pelvis being loaded now with a dumbbell, it's also got the fact that we can include twisting and rotation, which immediately, as you see here, is going to involve the obliques. We know how crucial the interaction between the obliques and abdominal muscles is. So why not train it? And we could do it so well with this. And not just that, to be able to keep our body in this position and stay tall as the pelvis is coming up, we're also overloading the all-important muscle that also gets overlooked, and it's the serratus anterior. So we get that sort of triple threat going on here in one exercise, making it the perfect exercise for this miscellaneous category and the perfect way to complete and round out our 7 selections. So there you have it, guys, my best dumbbell exercise selections for abs. And as I mentioned in the open, if it's not something you're doing now, make sure you introduce them soon, like today. Because these are going to provide a benefit that's unique and different than anything you're getting right now if you aren't doing weighted ab exercises. If you're looking for an app, that's right, we have an app that actually combines all of these exercises as an option into an entire 8-week ab training cycle. You can get it over in the App Store, the Six Pack Promise, and also in the Android Store, the Six Pack Promise. In the meantime, if you're looking for more than just abs, as I hope you are, you can find all of our step-by-step programs with the same level of science put into the selection of every exercise we make in all of our programs over at ATHLEAN-X.com. In the meantime, if you liked the video and you found it helpful, make sure you leave your comments and thumbs up below. And if you haven't already done so, click subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss a new video when we put one out. All right, guys, talk to you again soon. See ya.